How do you feel about seeing Robin after everything?
There's not trust with me and Robin. There's not.
They told us Sister Wives was about love, faith, and family. What they didn't tell us is that it was actually about manipulation, control, and a man addicted to his own reflection. There are moments in reality television when the curtain slips, and what's revealed isn't just a flawed personality. It's a case study in delusion, vanity, and spiritual rot. Kody Brown, once the self-styled patriarch of Sister Wives, has finally wandered into an environment where the producers don't edit him into heroism, and the people around him aren't paid to nod. On Special Forces' World's Toughest Test, he's stripped of the control he's clung to for 2 decades, and the result is nothing short of schadenfreude theater. Even the show's drill sergeants, professionals tasked with breaking down egos, could barely conceal their disdain. When Billy quipped that Kody should lead the team into a minefield so they'd know where not to step, the entire group erupted in laughter. The irony, of course, is poetic. For once, Kody's talent for destruction is being properly recognized as an asset. The man who spent 20 years detonating emotional landmines in his own family has finally found a role that suits him. The image of Kody eating breakfast alone while others chat warmly nearby is not simply tragicomic, it's karmic. For years, audiences watched him build a kingdom of alienation and self-praise, confusing manipulation with leadership. Now, surrounded by people immune to his theatrics, he's reduced to the class clown desperately seeking attention. The laughter he elicits isn't admiration. It's the laughter reserved for a fool who doesn't realize he's the punchline. Kody's dynamic on Special Forces reveals precisely why his former wives reached their breaking points. His need for attention is bottomless. He behaves like a child denied his toy, loud, petulant, incapable of introspection. When Janelle once mused that she wouldn't have married him if their courtship had lasted longer, it wasn't bitterness, it was hindsight. Kody is the perpetual adolescent, the kid who mistakes volume for authority and confusion for charisma. What's most fascinating is watching him stripped of his home court advantage. In the Sister Wives universe, everyone, wives, children, producers, played along with the cult of Kody. His pseudo-religious authority was treated as gospel. But placed among ordinary people who don't depend on his approval, he's exposed as what he's always been, a cosplayer of masculinity, confusing domination with manhood. His treatment by the Special Forces staff mirrors the reaction of his estranged family. Even his desperate attempts to impress the alpha males around him read as a pantomime. Tom Sandoval, another televised narcissist, received the same icy rejection from his male peers, a recognition that toxic masculinity is often just insecurity and camouflage. Neither man exudes real strength, both impersonate it. Kody's decades-long transformation from quirky idealist to unhinged egomaniac isn't mysterious. It's textbook. Polygamy didn't just indulge his narcissism, it nurtured it. Surrounded by women trained to defer, he mistook obedience for affection. When fame and money entered the equation, he learned that manipulation could be monetized. His marriages became performances, his spiritual rhetoric a sales pitch. Now, stripped of applause, he's unraveling in public. Robin, the last remaining wife, continues the performance. Her emotional video to Kody, void of their children and full of ego-feeding platitudes, was a masterclass in insincerity. The tears, the trembling voice, the well-lit setup, every element screamed producer-approved artifice. She flattered him as handsome and charming, adjectives that now sound almost parodic given his behavior on the show. Robin has long understood what Kody's fragile ego requires: endless flattery and submission disguised as devotion. Her video wasn't love, it was maintenance. Even she, however, seems to be tiring of him. Viewers sense the fatigue in her eyes, the dawning realization that her prize is, in fact, the punishment. As he peacocks around in his underwear, urinates in front of women, and declares himself a misunderstood visionary, Robin's mask slips. She's realizing what the world already has. The Emperor is shirtless, sweaty, and shouting about loyalty. The parallels to other televised egotists are uncanny. Like Sandoval, Kody is convinced he's the misunderstood genius in a cast of ingrates. In reality, both are relics of a fading archetype. Men who confuse dominance with depth and mistake control for connection. Their toxic masculinity isn't even real toxicity. It's cosplay. They're not dangerous alphas. They're theatrical betas wearing borrowed uniforms of power.
Kody's lack of self-awareness borders on pathology. For years, speculation about his neurodivergence circulated among viewers, yet the issue isn't neurology, it's moral erosion. His decades inside a self-constructed echo chamber of wives, followers, and yes-men have annihilated his ability to read a room. The social norms he flouts aren't mysteries. They're inconveniences to a man who's never had to consider anyone else's comfort. For his children, Special Forces offers something priceless: public validation that their father's behavior is indeed aberrant. Watching him ostracized by peers, dismissed by authority figures, and openly mocked must be both painful and vindicating. After years of being made to absorb the consequences of his arrogance, they finally get to see him absorb his own. When Kody declared that he doesn't care enough to change based on others' opinions, he inadvertently confirmed what his children have always known. His love is conditional, his ego absolute. He couldn't attend his daughter Isabel's spine surgery because he couldn't leave Robin's children for more than 3 days. But never once has he spoken publicly about missing those same children. The selective empathy is staggering. His televised tears at Robin's emotional message were pure theater. It was the same hollow sentimentality that's marked his entire career, loud gestures devoid of sincerity. There are couples so desperate to appear in love that one half expects them to declare adoration for each other's breathing patterns. Robin's devotion is performative, Kody's is narcissistic. Together, they create a spectacle of mutual delusion. What's remarkable about Special Forces is how it functions as a social autopsy of Kody's psyche. Deprived of power, stripped of reverence, he is exposed as fundamentally hollow. His entire persona, spiritual leader, protector, patriarch, was built on control. Once that control evaporates, so does he. The instructor's laughter at his expense is more than mockery. It's judgment rendered by reality itself.
Kody Brown has finally entered the real world, a world where respect is earned, not demanded, and charisma cannot be declared into existence. Unfortunately for him, the verdict is unanimous. The self-proclaimed leader of men is, in fact, a follower without a compass. If Special Forces is Kody Brown's public unmasking, then the internal politics of sister wives serve as the post-mortem. The empire he built on shared delusion has begun eating itself, and at the center of the feeding frenzy sits Robin, forever crying victim, forever calculating. Her halo has slipped, and it reveals something less angelic and more Machiavellian. The so-called abuse accusations against Mary Brown exemplify this rot. For years, Mary was the designated villain, cold, controlling, mean. But peel back the family propaganda, and the story begins to sour. Former members of their religious sect have described how women like Mary were conditioned to suppress their personal needs in favor of the collective. Speaking one's mind, especially as a woman, was labeled abuse. In other words, Mary's sin was not cruelty, it was audacity. She voiced her opinions in a cult where silence was sanctified. By every account, Mary was strict, structured, and perhaps severe. But there's a canyon of difference between discipline and abuse. Only when Robin entered the picture did the abusive narrative solidify, conveniently isolating Mary from the other wives and the children. The timing, of course, is suspicious. Suddenly, the woman who once held the family together became the scapegoat, and the source of this revelation, the self-anointed whistleblower Robin, just happened to be the wife benefiting most from Mary's ostracism. How serendipitous. The evidence against Mary remains laughably thin. She sent McKelty to bed without dinner, one child recalled, as though the absence of a single meal were a war crime. If that qualifies as abuse,
Most parents of the 20th century would be serving life sentences. More telling is that even the children now seem to be reconsidering their stories, with some reportedly walking back the accusations and questioning Robin's role in fueling them. Manipulation is far easier when disguised as concern. The irony runs deep. 2 of Kody's children have alleged that he hit them, yet somehow the public focus remains on Mary's supposed meanness. When it comes to Kody, the patriarchal lens suddenly blurs. The man who screamed, berated, and publicly humiliated his wives is described as angry or passionate. Mary enforces bedtime, and she's a monster. The double standard is nauseating but predictable. Within this system, male aggression is leadership. Female assertiveness is abuse. Even Christine, once the fan favorite escapee, has not escaped the hypocrisy. Her daughter Gwen described Christine as being as bad as Kody off camera, recalling the moment Christine told her that her father never loved her. It's astonishing how quickly the women who parroted Kody's patriarchal script internalized it. For years, Christine romanticized the role of self-sacrificing wife, and when the illusion shattered, she weaponized it instead. There's a thin line between victimhood and vengeance, and the brown women have built careers dancing on it.
But no one has mastered that dance like Robin. Her manipulations are so polished, they could be taught in finishing schools. If the family narrative is a script, Robin is the editor, revising history one tearful confessional at a time. When she speaks of fairness, what she means is control. When she insists she's advocating for everyone, she's actually maneuvering to ensure her own household receives the lion's share. Her latest performance, refusing to approve the sale of the family's Coyote Pass property until it's fair for all, was a masterpiece of moral theater. It was delivered with the sweetly pious tone of a woman who's never once acted in anyone's interest but her own. Every selfless act Robin performs seems to result in greater personal benefit. She didn't want to move into a lavish mansion in Flagstaff, she claimed, until Kody found one. She didn't want to isolate herself from the sister wives until isolation meant sole access to Kody's dwindling affection and the family finances. She's the benevolent dictator of her own revisionist history, forever painting herself as the misunderstood peacekeeper, while everyone else mysteriously winds up exiled. The pattern is almost insulting in its transparency. Robin creates chaos, positions herself as the victim of that chaos, and then receives sympathy and power for enduring it. Her constant refrain about wanting to sit on the porch and grow old together is less a dream than a branding slogan. What she really mourns isn't lost sisterhood, it's lost control. The other wives' independence robbed her of the shared family funds she once managed like a dowry. Her grief is financial, not emotional. Kody, of course, plays his role in this tragic comedy with his usual blend of self-pity and bravado. His so-called confession about receiving a romantic email from another woman, an email that sounded suspiciously like a fabricated storyline, was equal parts farce and desperation. The way he delivered it, nervously insisting he'd deleted it but would show future messages to Robin, reeked of a man who either invented the entire incident or responded and regretted it. Watching him perform guilt was like watching a middle schooler rehearse sincerity for the first time. Robin's reaction was equally revealing. Her sudden moral outrage over a woman reaching out to her husband would be almost touching if it weren't hypocritical. After all, she was perfectly content to join Kody's harem when the roles were reversed. Back then, jealousy was a flaw of insecure women. Now it's a virtue. Apparently, coveting is only a sin when it threatens Robin's turn on the throne. Her outrage isn't about fidelity, it's about monopoly. There's a delicious irony in imagining what would happen if Kody actually entertained the idea of a new wife. The prospect would ignite Robin's insecurities faster than his temper after a group therapy session. Yet the chances are slim. Kody's desirability has long been a myth, sustained by television editing and delusion. Off camera, the act collapses.
The admirers he references likely exist only in the inboxes of producers looking for storylines. What's striking is how the Browns, once marketed as a radical experiment in love and faith, have devolved into a cautionary tale about ego and performance. Every relationship within their orbit is transactional. Kody's affection is conditional on obedience. Robin's loyalty is proportional to her control. And the remaining wives' liberation is treated as betrayal. What began as a family of faith has ended as a case study in spiritual narcissism. The cracks were visible from the beginning. Even the wedding napkins from Kody and Mary's ceremony offered prophetic irony. They read, "The path to happiness is so narrow that two must become one." A curious sentiment for a couple entering a polygamous marriage. It's almost as if Mary's subconscious was already protesting. That quote, chosen long before additional wives entered the picture, undermines the revisionist claim that polygamy was part of the plan from the start. The evidence suggests otherwise, that the early marriage was rooted in mainstream Mormon ideals, and polygamy was later adopted to serve Kody's ambitions rather than divine inspiration. Janelle's entrance into the family only deepened the contradictions. Her conveniently timed calling into polygamy came after clandestine lunches with Kody behind Mary's back, a pattern of betrayal wrapped in religious rhetoric. Even the bizarre family entanglement of Janelle's mother marrying Kody's father reads less like providence and more like soap opera. These are not the actions of spiritually guided people. They are the maneuvers of individuals confusing chaos for destiny.
Through all of this, Kody remains the unwavering constant. A man addicted to the performance of authority, but allergic to its responsibilities. His finances were perpetually unstable, his employment erratic, and his leadership non-existent. Fame simply handed him a mirror and a microphone. Without the TLC money, he'd be another aimless drifter in a fringe sect, pontificating about principles while his wives worked to keep the lights on. Robin wasn't a new chapter in his faith. She was his midlife crisis with a camera crew. The tragedy is that the Brown story could have been a genuine exploration of faith and modern family dynamics. Instead, it became a portrait of moral bankruptcy dressed as religious conviction. Every sermon about love and unity was merely set dressing for Kody's ego trip. When his house of cards collapsed, he blamed everyone but the architect. And now, stripped of script and sympathy, he's left exposed on special forces, a man whose only consistent skill is the ability to alienate every person in his orbit. The wives he used to silence now speak freely, the children he dismissed now judge him publicly, and the audience that once indulged him now laughs in unison with the drill sergeants. Kody's downfall isn't just poetic justice, it's sociological poetry. He's the cautionary tale of what happens when a man builds his identity on domination and discovers too late that nobody wants to be dominated. If there's one thing that Kody Brown has perfected over the years, it's the art of self-destruction. From his temper tantrums to his erratic behavior, the man is a walking, talking case study in how unchecked ego and narcissism will inevitably drive you into isolation. His recent appearances on Special Forces, a show that's notorious for exposing emotional and physical weakness, have done nothing to improve his image. In fact, they've done the exact opposite, stripping him of the last vestiges of sympathy and revealing just how truly broken he is, not only as a person, but as a leader, husband, and father. Let's start with Kody's rage, which has become a hallmark of his on-screen persona. The man's emotional outbursts, often directed at his wives and children, have been framed as passionate or intense. But at a certain point, it becomes clear that Kody is simply a man who cannot manage his emotions or communicate like an adult. Watching him scream at his wives during the post-COVID conversations was chilling. There's nothing empowering about a man who resorts to yelling to assert his dominance. Yet despite his vocal tirades, the women remained eerily silent, as though conditioned to weather his fury with the same quiet obedience they've offered for years. It's a classic case of the bully who never encounters resistance, and as a result, the tantrums escalate. What's truly disturbing, however, is the realization that this wasn't a one-time explosion. Kody has a pattern of getting unhinged, whether it's screaming at his wives or hurling insults at his children. He's a man whose temper is as unpredictable as it is unrestrained. And it's impossible to ignore the reality that when the cameras are rolling, this is the version of Kody that the audience sees. So what's happening when the cameras are off? If this is how he behaves in front of millions, imagine the toll his unfiltered rage takes in private. He's a man who lacks emotional regulation, a quality that should be a non-negotiable for anyone claiming to be the head of a family. But Kody has long since abandoned that responsibility, opting instead to be a caricature of patriarchal power. His children have been subjected to the fallout of his temper for years, but now they have the luxury of watching him flounder on national television. One can't help but wonder how his children, especially the ones still struggling with their relationship with him, feel about seeing their father exposed in this way. For years, Kody has cast himself as the victim of his wives, blaming them for his emotional outbursts and perceived failures. But on Special Forces, his toxic masculinity isn't just tolerated, it's openly rejected. The men he desperately wants to impress see right through him. The Special Forces recruits are no nonsense, and they aren't there to indulge Kody's pathetic antics. Watching Kody try to fit in with men who exude genuine strength only makes his weaknesses more glaring. What's perhaps most frustrating about Kody is his inability to learn from his mistakes. He remains stuck in the same cycle of self-pity, arrogance, and delusion. He doesn't take responsibility for his actions, nor does he seem capable of reflecting on the damage he's caused. Instead, he constantly seeks validation from others, whether it's from his wives, the Special Forces recruits, or anyone who will feed his fragile ego. The fact that he hasn't realized how thoroughly despised he is by everyone around him is a testament to his complete lack of self-awareness. It's not just his ego that's broken, it's his entire sense of reality. Kody's relationship with women has been defined by a toxic blend of disrespect and entitlement. He demands obedience, but he cannot even begin to understand the concept of mutual respect. His tendency to disregard women's opinions and needs, especially in favor of his own desires, is appalling. The fact that Kody only listens to other men, as seen in his interactions with the Special Forces trainers, further solidifies his belief that women are inferior to men. Kody's misogyny isn't subtle, it's right there in plain sight. He's the classic alpha male who can't even be bothered to treat his wives with basic decency, yet he expects them to bow to his whims. What's even more troubling is Kody's approach to fatherhood. His recent outburst during a Special Forces episode, where he admitted that he doesn't care enough to change based on what others think of him, speaks volumes. Kody is a man who has been emotionally absent for his children for years, and yet he has the audacity to dismiss their concerns as irrelevant. This is a man who couldn't even attend his own daughter's spine surgery because it would have meant leaving his other children for a few days. What kind of father chooses his own comfort and convenience over the needs of his child? And the fact that he never once mentioned missing his children while on the show is a glaring indictment of his priorities. The idea that he could abandon his children for the sake of his new family is nothing short of nauseating. Robin, Kody's final wife, has been an enabler of his behavior, feeding his ego while pretending to be the self-sacrificing saint. Her own actions, particularly her hypocrisy when it comes to polygamy, are equally damning. She's been a master of manipulation, weaving a narrative where she is the victim, despite benefiting most from Kody's favoritism. Robin's refusal to sell the Coyote Pass property until it's fair for all was another transparent attempt to control the narrative. She's always looking for ways to position herself as the martyr, the one who's fighting for fairness, when in reality, she's just trying to keep her grip on whatever power she can muster. Her performance at the emotional video shoot for Kody was perhaps her most transparent moment. The video was clearly designed to feed Kody's ego, as she praised him relentlessly while conveniently avoiding showing any of their children, especially the younger ones. It was a calculated move on Robin's part, an attempt to reinforce Kody's self-image while deflecting attention away from the reality that their family dynamic is crumbling. Kody, of course, ate it up, oblivious to the fact that this display of affection was as hollow as his promises. What's perhaps most fascinating about Robin is her constant push for control. She's the one who insisted on the confidentiality agreement when Mary left the family, and she's the one who quietly orchestrates the division of resources to ensure she and Kody come out on top. It's clear that Robin isn't just trying to fit in with the family. She's playing a long game of manipulation, making sure that when the dust settles, she and her children will have the most to gain. The facade of harmony is just that, a facade. The most tragic element of this whole saga is how Kody and his wives have sold out their own values for the sake of a narrative. They've turned their lives into a performance, each one playing a part that's been scripted by ego, selfishness, and control. Kody's desperate need to be seen as a powerful figure, his inability to relate to anyone outside his immediate circle, and his refusal to acknowledge the damage he's done have created a perfect storm of failure. What was once a family based on shared faith has devolved into a soap opera of manipulation, deceit, and ego battles. At the end of the day, Kody is not a victim of polygamy or the media. He's a man who has chosen to wield his authority like a weapon and now wonders why it's backfiring. His inability to evolve, his utter lack of empathy, and his refusal to take responsibility for his actions have led him to this inevitable conclusion: a man surrounded by family, but utterly alone. The irony is rich, but the consequences are real.
What will become of the Brown family in the aftermath of this spectacle? It's hard to say, but one thing is certain. Kody, the once untouchable patriarch, is finally getting the wake-up call he deserves. Unfortunately, as with all narcissists, the lesson is likely to be lost on him. His failure isn't just a personal one, it's a family tragedy. And as long as he continues to hide behind his ego, he'll never be able to see the wreckage he's caused.